You feel sort of disconnected with the roads, like what's going on. The car is not responding to your inputs very well. So just be careful when you're loading items. I'm 175 cm tall. Now, seated inside here is actually quite a pleasant surprise. It does not... This is the newest kid on the block in the C-segment SUV space, the GAC EMKOO, with an estimated pricing of 120 to 130,000 ringgit for this range-topping premium Pro variant, here to challenge the likes of the Proton X70, Cherry Tiggo 7 Pro, JAC J7 and the Haval H6. But can the GAC make you look its way? Let's find out. My name is Adrian, I'm all about the details, and you're watching cDrive. The GAC EMKOO first made its public appearance in Malaysia back in January 2024, and it's only until recently that it's ready to hit to showroom floors, and being a locally assembled CKD model from Tanchong's plant in Segambut. And this one here is the bigger brother to the GAC M Zoom. If the EMKOO appears to be chunky to you, don't worry, you're not imagining things. That's because it is in fact quite a sizable car. And it's not because of the, angular dimensions at the front as well as the angular designs at the rear. Overall, it has a wheelbase of 2,750mm, making it the longest one in the segment. Both variants of the EMKOO rides on 19-inch dual-tone alloys with a tyre profile of 235/55R19, super large, and I applaud to GAC Malaysia for equipping this with the Continental Eco Contact 6 premium tyres. Because of the fastback light design, once you open up the power tailgate, it actually has kind of a swan hook-like design this way, which then results in the boot being a little bit lower than conventional SUVs. So yeah, you have to be very careful. This one is actually in the highest position already. Yeah, so just be careful when you're loading items. I'm 175 cm tall. But regardless, it opens up to the largest in-class boot space of 638 litres. Massive. And underneath here, you find a space-saver spare wheel and some storage spaces to put your loose items. Now, seated inside here is actually quite a pleasant surprise. It does not look Chinese, in fact, because there are loads of things going on right here. So the design elements over here, they are like turbine style. They said inspired from a plane's cockpit over to the air vents here. There's a lot of intricate shapes as well as different use of materials, soft touch on the dashboard, which I quite like, as well as these sort of patterns over to the center console here. Just makes things a little bit more exciting. There's also ambient lighting, which you're able to switch between the different colors or tie it with the car's drive mode. Now, over to here, you get a very crisp heads-up display as well as the digital instrument cluster, which is larger for the Premium Pro variants. Now, if you notice here, the instrument cluster is switched into 3 different sections. Over to the right side, the far right, it's where all your multimedia controls. The center, it's your tachometer, as well as the left side is where you cycle through the different driving information. So it's all done via the left button here. Now, you're also able to switch between the different views just by pressing the view button. So this one here is more like a minimalistic, more for the ADAS systems when you're doing the adaptive cruise controls of sorts. The seats itself are actually quite wide, and there's plenty of thigh support which you are able to adjust via the powered function right here. However, the seat back is a little bit stiff. After driving for a couple of minutes, yeah, I realized that the seats back here are a little bit stiffer. Now, storage spaces in here are actually quite plentiful. You get 2 cup holders separated, and here is where you're able to place your phones. Center armrest is also quite deep into it, but the side door bins don't fit a large size water bottle. Over to the passenger side is actually quite comfortable. There's no height adjustments for the seats. However, you do get ventilation for the front passenger seat, which is fantastic. Now, glove box is a conventional latch, and to charge up your devices, there's a 50-watt wireless charging tray. And don't worry if you're worried that the fast charging is going to heat up your phone. There's actually a vent for you to cool down the phone, and if it detects your phone is way too warm, it will automatically cut off the wireless charging power. And alternatively, you are able to have a Type-C cable at the front, 2 USB Type-A port or one USB Type-A port from the rear to charge up your devices. Now, to open up the vanity mirror, yeah, you can see that there are no vanity lights. Being the longest wheelbase in class of 2750mm, yeah, you can see that rear leg room is really plentiful. I have about 4 pickles balls worth of knee room, and you get a completely flat rear floor. So yeah, the center passengers will also be very comfortable. You're also able to further recline the rear bench for an even more relaxed seating posture. Ah, wow. This panoramic glass roof makes the car feel a lot more airy. Parents with children will be able to safely secure their kids over to the ISOFIX mounting points located on the rear outer seats of the rear bench. Starting off in the EMKOO, it runs on the same powertrain as the younger brother GAC Zoom. And that powertrain in the M-Zoom, what I've learned is that the M-Zoom has a more aggressive tuning, a sportier touch, and this one is more for family use, hence it's smoother, it's more refined, it doesn't give you that sudden surge in power as aggressively as compared to the M-Zoom. So inside the EMKOO, setting off in this wet dual clutch transmission is actually quite smooth. Okay, I'm here at a roundabout, come to a complete stop, and I'm setting off again, light on the throttle. Yeah, the clutch engaging, setting off, it's very seamless, very comfortable. While the powertrain is smooth, refined, comfortable in town driving like this, the suspension is set up to be on the firmer side of things, and this is actually a local touch, local inputs to have the suspension to be on the stiffer side of things. That's because the original EMKOO, that suspension was very wallowy. So which is why the local team here at GAC Malaysia, they've decided to stiffen up things, have the rebound to be a little bit shorter, as well as stiffer springs, which results into like this. Yeah, so at expansion joints, bumps, you do feel that it's a little bit, you feel more of the road, of the undulations. Not necessarily a bad thing. It's just quite surprising compared to any other Chinese SUVs out there. Most Chinese SUVs are very soft, wobbly. You don't feel anything when you go over undulations. This one in the GAC EMKOO, I feel a lot more. I feel a lot more of the road, which some users will appreciate. Some would probably prefer to look elsewhere. As you're setting off, gear changes are smooth, power delivery is linear, and when you go hard, yeah, you see it's not that sudden kick down and go where you get in the GAC M-Zoom with the Valvetronic exhaust. That it's a lot more aggressive, a lot more fun in nature. This one, it's clearly positioned to be more family oriented. Out on the open road, you feel that the EMKOO exudes quite a continental car kind of vibe. As I mentioned earlier, the suspension has been tuned to be a little bit stiffer, which then results in you feel more engaged with what's happening on the road. And taking into bends and curvatures, you feel quite odd, and that oddity, you feel sort of disconnected with the road, like what's going on, the car is not responding to your inputs very well. That's because within this GAC EMKOO, there's actually a setting called AVDC. And what AVDC does is that you're able to change a called shadow driver mode. It's actually quite a complex electronic stability control program, whereby once you turn it off, the car is in its most organic feel, right? So anytime when you take it into a bank, you throw it around the corners, you feel that the car's body roll a little bit, well, naturally being an SUV. However, once you dial things up a bit, you go into stable, for example, you feel that the car, it's more well behaved all of a sudden. Then the car doesn't have that sort of body roll going into the bends as aggressively. Well, what happened? Did the car suddenly became very stable? No, actually, I've mentioned earlier, it's an ESP. What they have done is to alter, taking in all the inputs from the engine, the transmission, the tire, the speed sensors, your braking, ABS, all of that comes together and determine that you're in a corner, what sort of steering inputs, what sort of speed that you're doing, and then just alters the torque vectoring, adjust the ABS braking just to help the car neutralize when going into corners. I think this is very trick. This is very, very trick. Being in a GAC, to do something like this, the closest function that I can think of that relates to this would be Mazda's GVC, G vectoring control. And once you dial it up all the way to radical, which is what I personally leave this in the most, yeah, I feel very confident taking the cars into bends. Not to say that the car feels a lot more stable, but you feel more natural, more fluid, more one with the car as you're taking into corners, and your passengers will appreciate it as well because they don't feel as thrown around being in a as a passenger. Overall, I think that the GAC EMKOO is quite a premium product. Premium in the sense that it exudes that sort of premium vibes in here in the cabin. The driving dynamics is also very well sorted. Powertrain is smooth. Suspension is on the stiffer side of things, akin to a Continental car. And you get, you know, the full load of features, everything that you can imagine all fitted in here with a price tag of starting from 120,000 ringgit to 130,000 for this range topping variant, which adds only the panoramic glass roof as well as auto parking. I think this would scream fantastic value once it's launched into the market, because the size, given its size, really the longest wheelbase, large car, the features and the driving dynamics, very, very impressive. So yeah, the next time you're out comparing other C-segment SUVs, make sure you remember all the intricate details of the GAC EMKOO from my video and see how those cars stacks up against this new kid on the block. My name is Adrian, thanks for watching cDrive, and make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel for more detailed videos like this. Bye bye.